There is a battle taking place inside you that no one around you can see. It moves in silence, hidden beneath your words, your habits, your posture, and your reactions. Still, its influence reaches everything. The weight you feel when you open your eyes in the morning to the breath. You try to steady under pressure. The courage you lose or recover when pain enters the room. And the way your spirit stands when life refuses to bend to your will. Most people spend their lives fighting what is visible. They fight for money, recognition, status, comfort, and control. They believe the enemy is outside them in difficult people, unfair circumstances, missed chances, delayed success, or the judgment of the world. But the deepest battle is rarely outside. It is the quiet conflict between the person you truly are and the person you created in order to survive. Somewhere along the path, you learned to adjust yourself before others could reject you. You discovered which parts of your nature were welcomed and which parts made people uncomfortable. So you became careful. You smiled when your heart was tired. You stayed silent when truth wanted to rise through your throat. You made yourself smaller in rooms where your full presence felt unsafe. You swallowed anger, covered pain, softened your dreams, and called it maturity. At first, these patterns may snorts have protected you. They helped you belong. They helped you avoid punishment, conflict, disappointment, and loneliness. But a shield carried for too long becomes a cage. A mask worn for too many years begins to feel like a face. This is why many people feel exhausted, even when nothing dramatic has happened. Their fatigue is not only from work, responsibility, or lack of sleep. It comes from the constant effort of maintaining a version of themselves that is not fully alive. They are not simply living. They are managing impressions. They are not simply choosing. They are calculating reactions. They are not simply speaking. They are measuring every word against the possibility of being misunderstood. Slowly, without realizing it, they lose contact with the still center within them. The world will tell you that transformation means adding more routines, more goals, more discipline, more knowledge, more ambition, more noise dressed as improvement. But the deeper path begins in the opposite direction. It begins with removal. A sculptor does not reveal the figure inside the stone by adding more marble. He stands before the block with patience, vision, and restraint, then removes what does not belong. In the same way, the strongest version of you is not waiting somewhere far away to be invented. It is already within you, buried beneath fear, comparison, borrowed expectations, old wounds, and the hunger to be seen in a certain light. Your work is not to decorate a false image of strength. Your work is to clear away everything that weakens your spirit. And this work must happen quietly. Not because you are hiding, but because sacred change loses power when it becomes performance. The moment you announce every step of your growth, you invite the same hunger you are trying to overcome. You begin seeking applause for your discipline, sympathy for your healing, recognition for your silence, and validation for becoming more authentic. Real change does not need an audience to become real. A seed does not explain itself while it breaks open beneath the soil. A mountain does not ask to be praised for standing firm. A warrior does not become dangerous by speaking about training, but by returning to it when no one is watching. Strength matures in silence through repetition, restraint, and the private decision to stop betraying yourself. This is where the battle begins. It begins in the pause before reaction. It clear throat begins when fear arises but no longer commands your hands. It begins when the desire to impress, defend, explain, or be understood appears inside you. And instead of obeying it blindly, you observe it with discipline. You breathe. You return to your center. You choose from clarity rather than fear. No one may notice the shift at first. The same room may surround you. The same people may speak to you. The same responsibilities may wait for you, but something within you has changed. You have stopped asking life to become easier before you become stronger. You have stopped waiting for perfect conditions before you begin. You have stopped believing that peace will arrive only when the world finally gives you what you want. Peace begins when you stop surrendering your inner state to things that were never yours to control. And once you see this clearly, the first chain becomes impossible to ignore before you can become calm, disciplined, and unshakable. You must face the silent addiction that has shaped too many of your choices, the need to be approved by others. The need to be approved by others is one of the quietest prisons a person can live inside. It does not look like weakness at first. It often looks like kindness, politeness, humility, loyalty, or emotional intelligence. You learn to read the room before you speak. You adjust your tone before your truth has a chance to stand. You soften your opinion because someone might feel uncomfortable. You laugh when nothing is funny. You say yes while your body is already saying no. Over time, this becomes so natural that you no longer notice the cost. You believe you are keeping peace. But many times you are only abandoning yourself in a gentle voice. Approval becomes dangerous because it trains you to place your inner value in hands that were never meant to carry it. A small frown can disturb your day. A delayed message can make you question your worth. A cold response can turn your mind into a courtroom. A lack of praise can make you feel invisible. This is how a person becomes dependent on the temperature of other people's reactions. When they smile, you feel safe. When they withdraw, you feel threatened. When they admire you, you expand. When they doubt you, you shrink. That is not freedom. That is emotional slavery with polite manners. The disciplined mind must learn to see this clearly. The opinion of another person may inform you, but it must not govern you. That judgment may reveal something useful, but it cannot become the foundation of your identity. There is a great difference between listening with humility and living for permission. One makes you wiser, the other makes you smaller. The person who constantly seeks approval slowly loses the ability to hear the voice of conscience. At first, they only change a few words. Then they change a few choices. Then they change their direction. Eventually, they wake up inside a life built to satisfy people who will never have to live with the consequences. This is why comparison is so destructive. It does not simply make you want what another person has. It teaches you to distrust the path beneath your own feet. You look at someone else and see the result. The body, the relationship, the money, the respect, the image, the applause. You do not see the private cost. You do not see the years of sacrifice, the hidden failures, the lonely discipline, the pain they never posted, or the emptiness that may still exist behind the appearance. You compare your unfinished interior with their polished exterior, then punish yourself for not feeling whole. A strong person does not use another person's highlight as a weapon against their own soul. They observe, they learn, they respect effort, but they do not bow before illusion. The same chain appears when you over-explain your decisions. You set a boundary, then bury it under too many reasons. You decline an invitation, then offer a speech as if your peace requires legal defense. You choose a new direction, then exhaust yourself trying to make everyone understand. But clarity does not always need an audience. A calm no can be complete. A simple decision can stand without decoration. Silence can carry more dignity than a long explanation given to someone who was never willing to understand you. This does not mean becoming cold, arrogant, or careless with people who matter. Those who are truly affected by your choices deserve honesty. Those who love you with maturity deserve communication. But not every critic deserves access to your inner court. Not every question deserves your emotional labor. Not every raised eyebrow is a command. When you begin removing the chain of approval, do it quietly. Do not announce that you no longer care what people think, because that announcement can become another form of snorts seeking attention. Instead, practice in small moments. Speak one honest sentence without diluting it. Hold one boundary without turning it into an apology. Let one person misunderstand you without chasing them for rescue. Choose one action because it is aligned with your values, not because it will create admiration. At first, your nervous system may resist. You may feel guilty, exposed, even selfish. That discomfort is not proof that you are wrong. It is the feeling of an old chain losing its authority. Stay still, breathe. Let the discomfort pass through without handing it the throne. The goal is not to be disliked. The goal is to stop being ruled by the fear of being disliked. The goal is not to reject all feedback. The goal is to stop kneeling before every opinion. When you reclaim this part of yourself, something powerful begins to happen. Your voice becomes simpler. Your choices become cleaner. Your presence becomes heavier. Not loud, but grounded. You stop performing goodness and begin practicing integrity. You stop chasing applause and begin listening for the quiet approval of your own conscience. And once that inner compass becomes stronger than the noise around you, you're ready to face the next chain. The habit of turning pain into complaint and complaint into identity. Once the need for approval begins to lose its grip, another chain will reveal itself. And this one is often harder to recognize because it hides behind pain. It is the habit of complaining, not the honest expression of emotion, not the necessary moment when a wounded heart needs to speak, but the repeated language of helplessness that slowly teaches the mind to kneel. Complaining feels small in the beginning. A few words about the weather, the people who disappointed you, the opportunities that did not arrive, the unfairness of your past, the weight of your responsibilities, the things you should have received but never did. Yet every complaint leaves an imprint. Every time you speak as if life is only happening against you, you train the nervous system to search for proof that you are powerless. The mind is a faithful servant to the language you feed it. If you constantly name yourself unlucky, betrayed, overlooked, stuck, unsupported, or broken, your inner world will begin to organize itself around those names. This does not mean your suffering is false. Some wounds are real. Some betrayals cut deeply. Some childhoods ask a person to grow strong before they ever felt safe. Some losses change the shape of the heart forever. To deny that would not be wisdom, it would be cruelty. But there is a difference between honoring your pain and building a home inside it. There is a difference between saying, "This happened to me," and saying, "This is all I am allowed to become." The first statement gives truth a place to stand. The second turns history into a prison. A victim identity is dangerous because it can feel morally justified. It gives you a reason to stay where you are. It gives you a language that explains every failure before you even try. It gives you sympathy and sometimes even a strange sense of safety. Because if everything is the fault of what happened before, then you do not have to face the terrifying freedom of choosing what comes next. This is where many people quietly surrender their lives. They do not collapse in one dramatic moment. They slowly hand over their power through the stories they repeat. They say, "I cannot trust because I was betrayed. I cannot rise because I was not supported. I cannot become disciplined because life was unfair. I cannot begin because I am too damaged." There may be truth in the wound, but there is poison in the conclusion. A disciplined person does not pretend the past did not hurt. They simply refuse to let pain become the author of their future. They look at the scar without worshiping it. They remember what happened without allowing memory to become a master. This is not easy. It requires a kind of courage that no audience can fully understand. It is much easier to complain than to act, It is much easier to explain your chains than to loosen them. It is much easier to be understood as wounded than to stand up and become responsible for a life that still contains the wound. But responsibility is not blame. This distinction matters. You may not be to blame for what happened to you, but you are responsible for what you continue to practice inside yourself. You are responsible for the thoughts you keep watering, the identity you keep rehearsing, the excuses you keep protecting, and the next action you refuse or choose the moment you understand. This complaining begins to lose its sweetness. You start to hear the weakness hidden inside it. You start to notice when your words are no longer releasing pain, but feeding it. Then a new question becomes possible. Not why did this happen to me? Not why did they fail me? Not why is life so heavy? The stronger question is, what does this moment require from me? Now that question does not erase pain, but it returns power to your hands. It turns your attention from the wound to the response, from the story to the step, from the past to the discipline, waiting in the present. Begin quietly. The next time complaint rises to your tongue, pause before giving it a voice. Ask whether your words will create clarity or deepen the cage. Ask what is still within your control. If there is an action, take it. If there is a lesson, receive it. If there is nothing left to control, release the argument and return to your breath. A person becomes strong not by denying pain, but by refusing to make pain their throne. When you stop complaining, you do not become cold. You become clean. Your energy returns from the endless courtroom of the past. Your eyes begin to see doors where they once searched only for walls. And when the victim identity finally begins to fall away, you are ready to protect the next sacred territory, the energy and attention that decide what kind of life you are actually building. When you stop turning pain into identity, you begin to see your life with sharper eyes. You start to notice what strengthens you, what weakens you, what restores your spirit, and what quietly drains it. This is where another form of discipline becomes necessary, the discipline of guarding your energy. Many people speak about time as if it is the only resource that matters. But energy is the force that gives time its value. An hour with a clear mind can build something meaningful. An entire day spent emotionally drained can disappear without leaving anything behind. This is why you must become careful about who and what receives access to you. Not every person who challenges you is toxic. Some people make you uncomfortable because they tell the truth. Some people question you because they see potential you keep avoiding. Some people refuse to flatter your weakness, and their presence may feel heavy before it becomes useful. Do not confuse discomfort with harm. Growth often begins with friction, but there is another kind of presence, one that does not sharpen you, but empties you. These are the people who leave your mind cloudy after every conversation. They turn simple moments into emotional labor. They make you doubt your own perception. They pull you into drama, resentment, gossip, guilt, and confusion. Then call it connection around them. Your nervous system stays alert. Your words become cautious. Your confidence becomes negotiable. You may have known them for years. You may love them. You may feel responsible for them. But history alone is not a reason to keep surrendering your peace. A wise person does not hate the thorn. He simply stops pressing his hand against it. Protecting your energy does not always require a dramatic ending. Sometimes it means answering less. Sometimes it means sharing less. Sometimes it means removing your expectations from people who have repeatedly shown you their limits. Sometimes it means letting a relationship become quieter without turning the silence into war. The deeper lesson is this: access to you is not a small thing. Your attention, your emotional presence, your patience, your listening, your inner space, these are sacred resources. If you give them carelessly, You will have nothing left for the work your life is asking from you. And in the modern world, the draining presence is not always a person. Sometimes it is the screen in your hand. The phone is not evil. It is a tool. But a tool becomes a master when you reach for it. Before you have reached for yourself, you wake up and touch the world before you touch your own breath. You fill every quiet moment with noise. You let strangers enter your mind before your own thoughts have had a chance to form. A few seconds become a few minutes. A few minutes become an hour. By the time you return to yourself, your attention has been scattered into pieces too small to build anything deep. The danger of distraction is not only clear's throat, wasted time. It is the weakening of the inner muscle that allows you to stay with one thing long enough for it to transform you. A distracted mind cannot easily create. It cannot listen deeply. It cannot pray, train, study, love, heal, or think with strength. It becomes restless, hungry for stimulation, uncomfortable with silence, dependent on movement, even when no real progress is happening. This is why silence can feel frightening at first. When the noise stops, you begin to hear what you have been avoiding. The loneliness, the uncertainty, the grief, the desire for a different life, the truth that your habits have been hiding from you. But do not run from that silence. Enter it like a training hall. Sit with it. Walk without filling your ears. Eat without feeding your eyes. Begin your morning without handing your mind to a machine. Let your attention gather itself again. You do not need to disappear from the world. You need to stop being invaded by it. You do not need to cut everyone off. You need to stop confusing excess with love. You do not need a perfect environment before you grow. You need the courage to protect the space where growth can actually happen. As your energy returns, your life becomes less crowded but more alive. Your words become more intentional. Your choices become less reactive. Your presence becomes calmer because it is no longer being pulled in 100 directions. And once you learn to guard your energy from people and distractions that weaken you, another illusion begins to lose its power. The belief that your real life is waiting somewhere in a perfect future instead of calling you into discipline right now. Once your energy becomes less scattered, you begin to notice a deeper illusion, one that has quietly delayed more lives than failure ever could. It is the belief that your real life is waiting somewhere ahead in a cleaner season, a better body, a stronger bank account, a perfect relationship, a finished healing process, a moment when everything finally feels ready. This belief sounds reasonable. It wears the face of patience, planning, and hope. It tells you that one day when the conditions are right, you will finally begin. One day you will speak with confidence. One day you will train with discipline. One day you will build the work you keep imagining. One day you will forgive, leave, commit, create, risk, or become the person you keep seeing in your mind. But watch carefully, because the mind can turn tomorrow into a hiding place. It can use the future as a beautiful curtain behind which fear remains untouched. Many people are not lazy. They are waiting. They are waiting for the pain to disappear before they move, waiting for certainty before they decide, waiting for approval before they act, waiting for motivation before they practice, waiting for life to become gentle before they become strong. And while they wait and the days continue to pass with quiet discipline, time does not argue. It does not beg you to wake up. It simply moves. Morning becomes night. A week becomes a month. A year becomes a memory. Then one day a person looks back and realizes they did not lack potential. They lacked the courage to begin before they felt ready. The fantasy of a perfect future is dangerous because it feels noble. It allows you to imagine a powerful version of yourself without requiring obedience from your present self. You can picture the disciplined body without entering the discomfort of training. You can imagine the peaceful mind without surrendering the habits that disturb it. You can dream of a meaningful life while continuing to spend your attention on things that make it impossible. This is why fantasy can become more addictive than failure. Failure at least teaches you something. Fantasy can keep you warm while nothing changes. The disciplined person must be honest enough to ask, what am I calling preparation that is actually avoidance? What am I calling patience that is actually fear? What am I postponing? Because I do not want to meet the version of myself that might fail in public or struggle in private. These questions are not meant to shame you. They are meant to return you to the only place where life can be touched. The present moment. Your future is not built in the future. It is built through the way you stand inside today. It is shaped by the next meal, the next hour of focus, the next honest conversation, the next time you choose restraint over reaction, the next time you keep a promise after the emotion that made it has disappeared. You do not need perfect conditions to begin living with dignity. You need one clean action, one decision made from alignment rather than fear. One step that proves you are no longer negotiating with the part of you that wants comfort more than freedom. This does not mean abandoning vision. A person without direction becomes easily consumed by distraction. Goals matter, preparation matters, patience matters, but the future should guide your present, not replace it. A map is useful only if you are willing to walk. If you keep polishing the map while refusing the road, you are not preparing, you are hiding with better language. So begin quietly. Do not wait until your confidence is complete. Confidence is often born after action, not before it. Do not wait until you feel healed in every place. Sometimes healing deepens because you finally move with the wound instead of worshiping it. Do not wait until others understand your path. Some roads become clear only after you stop asking the crowd to bless your first step. Ask yourself what would change in the next 24 hours if you stop treating life as a rehearsal. What would you do today if you accepted that no perfect season is coming to rescue you from the responsibility of becoming? Then do that thing, not loudly, not dramatically, not for a witness, but with the quiet force of a person who has stopped delaying their own soul. When you release the fantasy of a perfect future, you do not lose hope. You make hope honest. You bring it down from imagination into behavior. You stop waiting for life to open the gate, and you begin walking with the strength already available to you. And as you take that step, another lesson becomes unavoidable. You can give your whole heart to the action, but you must learn to release your grip on the outcome. When you stop waiting for a perfect future, you finally return to the only place where power exists, the present action in front of you. But this return brings another test. Once you begin to act with sincerity, disciplined courage, the mind will try to attach itself to the result. It will say, if I work hard, life must reward me quickly. If I love deeply, the other person must stay. If I speak honestly, everyone must understand. If I prepare carefully, nothing should go wrong. This is where many people lose their peace. They do the right thing, then suffer because they demand that life respond exactly as they imagined. They confuse effort with ownership. They believe that because they planted the seed, they also control the weather, the soil, the season, and the speed of growth. But wisdom begins when you learn to separate what belongs to your hands from what belongs to life. Your effort belongs to you. Your intention belongs to you. Your discipline, your honesty, your patience, your preparation, your response, these are yours. The timing of results, the choices of other people, the movement of opportunity, the judgment of the world, the sudden changes that arrive without warning. These were never fully yours to command. When you forget this distinction, anxiety becomes your companion. You send the message, then suffer over the reply. You submit the work, then torture yourself with the outcome. You give your heart, then live in fear of losing what was never a possession. You train, sacrifice, pray, build, and still feel restless because part of you is trying to grip the wind. A disciplined mind does not become passive. It does not stop caring. It does not use detachment as an excuse for weak effort. True detachment is not indifference. It is complete devotion to the action. Without slavery to the result, think of the archer standing before the target. Before the arrow leaves the bow, everything matters. The stance matters, the breath matters, the strength of the hands, the stillness of the eyes, the hours of practice, the patience of the body, all of it matters. The archer must not be careless. He must not blame the wind before he has mastered his own form. But once the arrow is released, another world begins. The air may shift, the target may move, something unseen may interrupt the path. At that moment, wisdom is not found in chasing the arrow. Wisdom is found in returning to practice. This is how you must live. Hold the bow with full presence while the arrow is still yours. Give your best while the action remains in your hands. Speak with truth while the words are still forming. Work with devotion while the task is still before you. Love with integrity while your heart is still choosing. But when the moment has passed, when the message has been sent, when the effort has been made, when the decision has left your hands, release the outcome from your nervous system. Do not keep paying emotional rent for a future that has not arrived. Do not turn waiting into self-punishment. Do not mistake worry for responsibility. Worry often feels like care, but most of the time it is only fear pretending to be useful. If there is still something to do, do it. If there is something to correct, correct it. If there is a lesson to receive, receive it cleanly. But if nothing remains within your control, return to your breath and stand still. This is not weakness, this is mastery. The strongest person is not the one who forces life to obey, but the one who remains steady when life refuses to obey. The world can delay the result, but it cannot take the dignity of your effort. People can misunderstand your intention, but they cannot own your conscience unless you hand it over. Circumstances can close a door, but they cannot decide whether you become bitter, careless, or defeated. That decision remains with you. Begin practicing this quietly before every important action. Ask yourself, what is mine to do here? Then do it fully. After the action, ask what is no longer mine to carry. Then let it go with discipline. At first, your mind may return to the outcome again and again. Do not hate the mind for this. Train it as you would train the body. Bring it back, bring it back, bring it back. Each return is a repetition of freedom. Each release is a strengthening of the inner spine. And when you can act with total commitment while remaining inwardly free from the result, you become difficult to disturb. You stop bargaining with life. You stop making your peace dependent on applause, timing, success, or certainty. You become rooted in the quality of your own action. And from that rooted place, you are finally ready to face the deepest removal of all, the false self you created to survive, and the quiet return to the person you were before. Fear taught you how to perform. When you learn to do your part and release the outcome, something deeper begins to surface beneath the need for approval, beneath complaint, distraction, fear snorts, and control. There's one final layer that must be seen with complete honesty. It is the false self you created in order to survive. This version of you was not born from freedom. It was shaped by pressure, fear, rejection, disappointment, and the quiet lessons you absorbed from the people around you somewhere in your life. You learned which parts of you were rewarded and which parts were punished. You learned that being agreeable kept the peace. You learned that hiding your anger made you easier to love. You learned that shrinking your dreams protected you from ridicule. You learned that silence could feel safer than truth. You learned that if you became useful, pleasant, strong, calm, successful, or invisible enough, maybe you would not be abandoned. So you built a version of yourself that could move through the world with less danger. At first, this was not weakness. It was intelligence under pressure. It was the nervous system trying to protect the heart. It was a child, a young person, a wounded soul, doing whatever was necessary to feel safe. But what once helped you survive can later prevent you from living. A mask worn too long does not stay on the surface. It begins to shape the face beneath it. You may reach a point where you no longer know whether your choices are truly yours or whether they belong to fear, family expectation, old shame, social pressure, or the hunger to be accepted. This is why the return to your true nature requires courage. You are not only changing habits, you are questioning the identity that helped you get through pain. You are looking at the version of yourself that kept you safe and saying, "Thank you, but you cannot lead my life anymore." The false self survives through performance. It wants to appear calm. Even when the soul is restless, it wants to appear confident. Even when every choice is shaped by fear, it wants to appear generous, while secretly hoping generosity will purchase love. It wants to appear disciplined, not from devotion, but from the need to be admired. Yet the true self does not perform. It stands, it breathes, it chooses from alignment, not applause. It does not need to be dramatic. It does not need to convince the room. It does not need to announce that it has arrived. The true self often returns in small, quiet acts. One honest sentence, one boundary held without apology, one decision made without asking the crowd to bless it, one moment when you stop laughing at what wounds your dignity, one morning when you no longer reach for distraction before meeting your own breath, one choice that feels simple, clean, and difficult because it comes from the deepest part of you. Ask yourself, if no one could judge you, misunderstand you, reject you, or be disappointed in you, what would you stop doing? What would you finally say? What would you build? What would you leave? What would you protect? What dream would return from the place where you buried it? The distance between your honest answer and your current life reveals how much of yourself you have been trading for safety. Do not hate yourself for this. Hatred is another cage. See it clearly. Bow to the part of you that survived. Then begin removing what is no longer true. This removal must be quiet. If you turn authenticity into a performance, you will only build another mask. More beautiful perhaps, more spiritual, more impressive, but still a mask. Real freedom does not need decoration. It is felt in the nervous system when you no longer betray yourself to be chosen. It is felt in the breath when you stop explaining your existence to people committed to misunderstanding you. It is felt in the spine when your actions and your values begin to stand in the same line. This is the end of the journey and also the beginning. You remove the need for approval and your voice returns. You remove complaint and your power returns. You remove toxic excess and distraction and your energy returns. You remove the fantasy of a perfect future and your life returns to the present. You release the outcome and your peace returns to your own hands. Finally, you remove the false self, and what remains is not a new person, but the person who was waiting beneath the noise. Do not announce this transformation.